Okay, once the download is complete, the easiest thing to do is just click on the link for Open Folder. It's going to open up a new window where you can see the download, and we can go ahead and close our web browser at this time. Now this is in what's called a zip file. It means it's a compressed file containing multiple files inside of it. KeePassX does not have an installer, so the easiest thing I found is just to copy it to the desktop. To do that, first we need to open up the compressed file. In Windows XP and Windows Vista, it's as simple as just double-clicking on the folder. Then we can click and drag the files we want, which is called KeePassX, to the desktop. And then when it's done, we'll have a new folder on the desktop. So we can close this folder. We now have KeePassX on the desktop. If we double click on that, we can see the program right here. And if you want to make it even easier to get to the program directly, you can right click on it, click Send To, and then click on Desktop. And that'll create a shortcut to the program. The first time you open it, there's nothing there. And what we need to do is we need to create what's called a database. The database is going to be a file that stores all of the passwords that we create and we save in KeePassX. To create a new database, we come over on the left side. There's a little white square. If we hover our mouse over it, it says New Database. So when we click on that, it's going to pop up with the new database window, and it's going to ask us for a password. Now we can create a database without a password, but you don't want to. The purpose of this is you only have to remember the one password for the database, and it encrypts all the other passwords that are stored in the database no matter what they are, and you're unable to get to them without this one password. So this way, even if your computer is hijacked or if your laptop's stolen, they still can't get to your passwords because you have your one main password on it. So I'm going to go ahead and type in a password here, and then we click on OK. It's going to ask us to repeat the password, so we just type it in again and click OK again. And now we have a database created. You'll notice it has a couple groups already pre-set up, one for internet, one for email. You can create more groups if you'd like. It doesn't really matter how many groups you have or what they're called. They're just groupings of different types of passwords. So if we want to create a new password, say for instance, let's create a password entry for our webmail access. So I'm going to go ahead and select Internet, and then we click on the little key with the arrow on it here. That's Add New Entry. That's going to open up a new entry window, and it'll allow us to give it a title, username, URL, password, repeat the password, and then a comment about the password if we need. Most important fields are the title, username, and password fields. The title field, you can put whatever you want in it, helps remember what that password's for. So we're going to put in Peak Internet Webmail. Okay, that helps us remember that this is for the webmail. And if we click in the box for username, we can enter our username, which is new user, since our email address is newuser@peak.org. We're going to go ahead and type in the URL of the webmail here just to help us remember down the road in case we forget for some reason. That is webmail.peak.org, but it's not necessary to fill this field out. And finally we come to the password field. Now we already have a password created for our email, so we're just going to be typing in the password that we already have. You'll notice as I typed it, the quality meter went up. And that tells us how strong that password is. The higher the green bar, the stronger the password. And you want to get that as high as you can. For instance, if I type in just the password, you'll notice it's not very strong. But if I type in the password that I created for the new user email, it's a little bit stronger. We can easily create even stronger passwords using KeePass, which we'll get to in just a little bit. Before it'll let us save it, we have to repeat the password. This is just a check to make sure we didn't mistype it, because the chances are you're going to type it correctly at least once. Once we have our password in both fields, we can click OK. You'll notice now it has an entry with a username and the password is just stars. And that's on purpose. That way nobody can look over your shoulder and see what the passwords are. And we're going to go ahead and show you how to create a secure password with KeePassX. So let's say we want to sign up for the website joesfishshack.com. We're going to create a new entry and we're going to title it Joe's Fish User, and our username is Joe. And rather than creating a password ourselves, we're going to come and click on the button Gen. That stands for Generate. It's going to pop up with this big imposing window, has all sorts of options. Just leave the defaults as they are and click the Generate button. You'll notice it created a very long password with a whole bunch of dots. We don't even know what that password is. We don't need to with KeePassX. We just click OK, and it automatically puts it into both the password and the repeat password boxes. We then click OK at the bottom, and we now have an entry for Joe's Fish. Now, before we do anything else, we want to save. We can do that by clicking on the little floppy in the corner. That saves the database. The first time we save it, it's going to ask us where we want to save it. And by default, it's going to put it in the same folder as the KeePass program itself, which is probably just fine. I would go ahead and save it there. You need to type a file name for it. I'm just going to call it passwords. Just easy to remember. And then we click Save. Now from now on, whenever we open KeePass, it'll automatically reopen this password database without any other prompting for you. So let me show you. Close KeePass, and now we'll reopen it. See, it just automatically prompted us for the password. This is the master password we entered when we created the database. And there's our entries. Now, since the passwords are in these wonderful little stars, how do we get them into a username and password field on a website? Well, let's take the webmail for example. We'll go to the Peak Internet webmail, and it has a spot for our username and a spot for our password. So rather than type anything in here, we're going to go back to KeePassX. We're going to select the entry for Peak Internet webmail, and then you'll notice there's several new open icons at the top here. One is a little person, and if we hover over it, it says copy username to clipboard. So if we click on this, it's going to copy it to the clipboard, which will allow us to paste it into Internet Explorer for the username. So let's copy it, and then we click in the username field, and we right click on the username field, and we click paste. And there's the username. And we repeat the same process for the password. We select the entry, we click on the little key, which copies the password to the clipboard. We come back to Internet Explorer, right click on the password field, and click paste, and it's now put our password in. We click continue at this point, and there we are. We've logged into the Peak email. Thank you for watching the second episode of Peak Internet's Weekly Tech Tips. If you have any questions, please call us at 1-800-731-4871. We are open 24 hours a day.